Hello, live by design, not by default. Welcome to Inspirational Moments with me, Billy. This is our number 10th live stream. And before we start, as usual, I'd like you to take a moment and think about this. Are there people whom you think can benefit from what we are discussing this evening about communicating effectively? But for some reasons, they cannot make it or that they're not joining us. If you do have people in mind like this, just please share the video on your page so that your friends can also join us if they will. All right. So first of all, I want to say hello to everyone who came in to join me this evening. Hello, Farah. Farah, I think the last time I saw you was last year. Just yeah, I think November, December, sometime. All right, so it's good to see you here this evening, Farah. Kit, as usual, nice to see you. Jessica, David Leong, welcome. Shirley Lim, Nuini, Shafi, Lin, Sharon's. Hello, everyone. Hello, Leonard, as usual. Leonard, we got to talk. Okay, hello, Joseph. Hello, Father Camille. Dylan, Jicky. Oh, Sok King is also here this evening. Hey, number 10th episode. Yeah, number 10th episode. Actually, by now, if we had started like long ago, uh, with me not insisting wanting to be like interacting only face to face, we've probably done a few hundred episodes by now. But nevertheless, we take one step at a time. Okay, so this evening is about communicating effectively. As usual, would like you to share with me your experiences as well as your tips. So together, we can gain inspirations and learning from one another. All right. Most of the communication I learn, I either learn it in my career on the job, or I learn it from my wife, who has taught me a lot about communicating, expressing myself. I also have my daughter to thank for helping me. Okay, for first of all, laughing at me when I pronounce certain words wrongly or when I have funny intonation, and she would laugh. But also, she has taught me a lot along the way. So I'm grateful for all the people in my life, especially my wife and my daughter. Yeah. Learning from my wife, she's always saying things like, got to learn how to express yourself, share what's inside your mind, share what's inside your heart. And so along the way, I just, from talkative became even more talkative. All right, so let me first of all ask you, how many of us here professionally communicate, interact, and present on a daily basis? I think even for now, when we are having this lockdown period, I understand that a lot of people are having meetings online, and it's no longer just a conference call. I remember back in the days when we make a conference call with several people in the room, dialing to another team of people from another country, and we are talking, and that was like, wow, big deal. Now I think with the use of technology, things certainly change in this new normal. All right. I'm still looking forward to when everything is totally back to normal, so that I can start traveling and training, and my team can also start traveling and training. Okay, tell me by indication of perhaps a thumbs up. Okay, how many of us has ever said something to someone, but your intention was totally received wrongly? They totally misunderstood you. All right, give me a thumbs up if you have that. I will give it a moment because there is a lag as I can see. Hello, Siobhan. It's been a long time. Caroline, thanks for joining. And okay, let me see. Faz, thanks for joining. Lydia Cole. Lydia Cole from Malaysia, is it? All right. Okay, so how many of us have ever said something to someone and it was completely received wrongly? And then that result in a big misunderstanding, right? And how many of us has ever had someone during an interaction they say something nice to you, and then they walked away, and you start thinking about what they said, only to feel very strongly that, I don't think they really meant what they say. Okay, I think the basis of this is quite simply this: we judge others by their actions and communications, but we judge ourselves by our intentions, not by our actions and communications. All right, so similarly, I think when we project ourselves, when we interact with others, most people would be listening to our content rather than our intent. All right, so it's important we get our actions right and we get our communications right. Now, coming to talking about dealing with people, so how many of you have tips, to minimize misunderstanding, and so that you can really get your message across to someone else? Because I may have a good intention, right, but then it somehow came out uh, through my communication, and it meant something else entirely, and that result in difficult situations, or at least embarrassing situations from time to time, simply because people don't will not be thinking of my intention. I think so. First of all, for me, the learning here is beyond people's actions and communication, let's also think in terms of their intention. I had one episode where I cover and talk about NLP's presupposition, that means the principles to embrace, that when it comes to dealing with other people, always understand that people are doing the best that they can, and that you have your map, I have my map. We will both perceive the same thing differently. Yeah. Okay, so let's hear from you some quick tips about communicating so that we can really get our message across. And this applies to people who are making presentations as well, speaking to a large group or having a team meeting. All right, we are always communicating. NLP also says you cannot not communicate. All right. For example, if I'm chairing meetings and I always have two person who will come in late, and every time they come in late, I did not say anything, and that I just proceed on with the meeting. Now, am I communicating if they come in late all the time and I didn't say anything? Right? At first, on first thought, most people say, okay, no, then you're not communicating. But if you think carefully, by not communicating, I am already saying something. Like in this instance, I'm probably saying that, hey, it's all right to be late. All right, hence I did not say anything. All right, as usual, I can count on Lean. At some point, I got to beef up my hardware so that I can do a call with you, and we can talk together in one of our live streams. Okay, Lynn said, change your tone of voice, lower our energy so that the vibe feels less confrontational to the other person, and check the words used. Yeah, very definitely. We learned about not just the words, but that we ought to listen beyond the words. Yeah. Okay, good. Is everybody is already adding each other as friends and making friends. Wonderful. Okay, that's the whole idea behind it. All right. So, when it comes to dealing with people, I believe that we ought to be around to always be making contributions and not pollution. Already it's yeah. Okay. So Joseph said, yes, I am communicating. Oh, that's two Joseph saying. Yeah, so referring to the meeting, the two late guys, right? The two guys who always come late. All right, and also Joseph, latecomers already felt the tension from you. Okay, yes and no, depending on the situation. If I'm not in a hurry and all that, I'm typically okay. I'm quite in the moment, at the present kind of person. And very often, if I start interacting and start connecting with people and communicating, we just keep talking and talking. Hey, I'm talkative. Okay, Lynn also shared that we ought to be also projecting empathy and compassion and listen to understand, not necessarily to reply. Yep, certainly one of the things that I've learned. Back in the days when I'm married for like 27 years now, when we were dating and getting closer with each other, my wife and I, uh, you know, when I pick her up from work, she'll be telling me some of the situations and all that happens at the workplace. And very instinctively, I just, as I'm driving, I was just like, okay, here's three things you can do about it, and then I start giving solution. I start saying what I think, when actually all she wanted was just for someone to listen. Yeah. And of course, listening also, we don't just, do what we do. And of course, you cannot not listen, you cannot not hear, right? But we also have to be acknowledging. All right, Farah also shared something nice. Use simple word. Yeah, I think that is this acronym KISS, keep it simple, silly, or keep it simple, stupid. All right, so as with anything, I think let's keep it simple. That's the easiest that's the easiest way to avoid or prevent any form of miscommunication. All right, but first thing first, in dealing with people, please know that one of the best ways to be happy is to make someone else happy. So, what are we doing when we interact with people? What are we leaving behind? What value are we adding when we have the opportunity to interact with someone? All right. And also, when dealing with people, it's not just always the matter at hand that we must pay attention to. We have to be really connecting with people at the psychological level as well as at the emotional level. So here I propose that we meet the three, what we call the 3A psychological emotional needs. All human beings like attention, acknowledgement, and acceptance from one another. All right, so make it a point to also meet people. So like when you're listening, and unlike me when I used to just prescribe solutions, learning how to listen, giving attention and acknowledging and just accepting that someone is sharing something. All right, and that itself is also already a form of connection. It's also a form of communication. Okay. Caroline, haha, that's a man thing. Men listen to solve problems. Women just want a listening ear, not necessarily a solution. All right, now that you get it started. Okay, men, women, I think we're both quite different. I read somewhere that on a daily basis, men have a 10,000 word quota per day. And he will be using up all his 10,000 words at the workplace. When he come back home, there's nothing to talk about. Whereas women have 65,000 words as a quota per day. She used 30,000 at the workplace, and then she'll bring back another 35,000. Right? Like I remember when we did all the classes, um, that when we talk about communication, because a large part of what I do is soft skills, and communication is definitely an integral part of it. I remember many of them will tell me things like, when the men go back home, he won't be talking and saying anything about the training, but the wife is going to come and go that, okay, so tell me more about the training today. How was the training today? And the man typical response, it was okay, it was good. A one word response. Whereas, so in a sense, women use more questions. Men tend to use more sentence, just to say what we want to say, and that's it. Right? Whereas she's expecting to hear the details, and then the ladies in the class will go back home, and the husband knew that they came and attend a training, and didn't even ask about the training, but she will go to him, go like, I went for training today. Guess what I learned today? Guess what happened today? All right, and then there is the communication. Okay, Joseph also sharing some tips here. I changed my tone and body language to ease the conflict between my boys recently. Thank God it worked. Yes, definitely. Thank God it worked. And definitely do pay attention to our tone and our body language. I think men tend to be more factual and more big chunk thinkers. By big chunk, it means we are very generalized in our communication. So the training was good, and that's it. But what made it good? Where was it? How was that place? Who are the people there? What did you learn? How did everything go? Right. So there's a lot of details in there. There you go. Yeah, quota. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. All right. And then Caroline also say yes, yes, it's in the DNA of each gender. So I think let's seek to understand then to be understood, right? So we just be more patient and hear people out first. Yeah. Just like shopping. What about shopping? I know that we men will pay $2 for a $1 item because we only go and find it when we need it. Whereas women will buy two of the $1 item because it's cheap now. Better buy, we can keep and use. All right, is that what you're thinking about? All right, women wishy-washy, want to compare, want to check, right? Men just go straight in, buy, and then get out of the place. Yeah, that's that's what, or at least that's what I do. Okay, so do meet people at the three A's at the psychological and emotional level, giving attention, acknowledgement, and acceptance. All right, next up. Also, do project and communicate respect, recognition, and giving reassurance. Now, with the classes that I do, most people when they come for the classes, if it's corporate, then it's usually corporate attire, depending on what kind of classes we're doing. If it's more experiential learning, more action learning kind of stuff, like team building, then what likely happen is that they would be told to dress casual. All right. So whether formal, casual, most of them dress very well. And when I found that someone dressed very well, like give a compliment, find out more about how they go about doing their doing their shopping and stuff like that. Just get a conversation going. Yeah, so usually men will be like, yeah, just go and see it, and I like it, I just buy it, and then just get out quickly. Okay, mind of the woman. Oh, this one we got to see. All right, the mind of a woman, a box for each category in life, and it all intertwined or are connected to each other. Mind of a man is a box each for a few categories, and the boxes never touch. Yep, I think man's brain is very compartmentalized. Women's brain is all intertwined and connected. Actually, I read somewhere that our brain, the neurons connect to each other through this wire connector called the dendrites. And that if you take out a woman's brain and take out all the dendrites and you join them together, it can go around Earth about 35,000 times or something like that. Whereas men have fewer wires, very much like our head. When we grow older, a few hair, a few strands, just connecting here and there. I liken men's brain or men's thinking to be like a multinational corporation with many departments and divisions, and people don't talk to each other. And that's how men's brain works. Whereas in a woman's mind, everything is connected. Yeah. Okay, so these are the three R's and the three A's. Hope this is of value to you so that we also pay attention, besides the content, we also pay attention to the person. We pay attention to their psychological and their emotional needs at the same time. All right, so tonight we are using a lot of triple. Huh? So we had three A's, we had three R's, and now another three A's. This is a diagram, or this is a chart that basically describes how information flow and how we process information. You see, there are two parts to our mind. There's a conscious mind that's thinking, the one that's paying attention on things, and then there's the unconscious mind. Now, communication, is it conscious or is it unconscious? What do you think? I think there are times that we do pay attention before we say something, but most of the time we say first, and then if there's anything extraordinary, the thinking kicks in. What's your thought on this? Every one of us know from young we are told to think before you talk. Yet, how often do you say something and as soon as you finish, you go, oh my God, I think that was rude, that was a bit harsh. All right. So, both consciously and unconsciously, I think consciously is when we really take time to prepare and to plan what we want to communicate. All right. In that sense, then we would have been more careful, we would have analyzed, we would have make better choices of words and sentences, and therefore communicate our real intent. The thing is also largely unconscious. So most of the time, it's just whatever we think, and then we just say it as it is, and therefore not really paying attention on how people actually receive information and will process your information. So first thing first, when two persons interact with each other, both will be accumulating information of each other through the five senses, right? And of course, coming to talking about the use of senses, again, I think women's brain is marvelous. Women can multitask their senses. A woman can see, hear, and feel at the same time. Men, when we are seeing something, we are all distracted. I'm sorry, what do you say? Can you say that again? We just, one sense at a time, we switch around, yeah? But we accumulate via our five senses of what the other person is saying as well as projecting. We see, we hear, we feel, we smell, we taste, we touch, all right? And it would largely be received unconsciously. I think we do pay attention from time to time on the words, but not on every word. So it's not consciously paying attention on every word, but there are certain words that jump out, that catches our attention and we become conscious about it. But then the rest would largely be unconscious. So we accumulate all the information, it goes to the brain. And at the brain, there's a thing called the filters. And what these filters will do is the filters will generalize information, we will delete information, we will distort this information so that it makes sense to us in our brain, so that we can process it. All right, so that's a stage we call accentuating, and that means the brain is now processing. Okay, finally, after accumulating the data, processing the data, we will activate, all right, in the form of a response which is positive or reaction which is negative. Yeah, I think Lynn kind of put it very spot on right there. Collect data, process data, share data if data is valid and safe. Share data, not sure about, man, can't speak for that. We just listen and then we don't even give a strong, expressive response or reaction unless it's really something that really catches your attention. All right, so understand this as a process. I think that's the reason why if I interact with someone and that person says something, let's say the person says something nice to me about me, and then later on the person walk away, I start thinking about the conversation we had. For some reasons, I don't think he meant it because I have unconsciously accumulated information that contradicts the message that they were giving, and hence from there, uh, the unconscious mind actually is very good at accumulating a lot of information. I believe that you trust your gut feel that was given to you by your unconscious, because the unconscious mind is always accumulating more information than what we can do consciously. Consciously, we pay attention to one thing at a time, and that if we are quick, then we just move very quickly from one to another. But otherwise, that's what happened. All right, so think in terms of how you can send out those information that will be received accurately. Yeah. All right. So to the end, something I wrote some time ago, intent must be carried across in your content. Okay. So maybe we ought to like really plan before we communicate. All right. Let's see. Lynn also say which means to communicate it outwards to share. Okay. Yeah. Like as in responding, you're activating either a response or a reaction. Okay. I know what you mean. Just kidding with you there. All right, but very well said there though. Collect data, process data, and share data, or utilize the data. All right, in either in processing and learning from it, or maybe just keeping it for yourself. Okay, so here's a quick 3 V's model in order that we can project ourselves and communicate more effectively. This is based on the research that was done in UCLA, I think was in 1965 by Professor Albert Mehrabian, and it was published in an article in 1969. But then nowadays it's being taken and was quite widely misinterpreted that, in communication, words are only 7% important, 38% is your tone, 55% is in your body language. Okay, but actually in actual fact the article, what happened when he came up with all this percentage, where he was comparing face-to-face communication with over the phone communication. All right, so it's from there that he came up with this percentage. All right, so I won't get too hung up about this percentage because it was a comparison. right? But because now we are still, some places are still staying home, and still, Singapore is moving into phases already, and we are communicating more on the phone. So if you're communicating on the phone, according to the published article comparing this particular model, over the phone, words are 18% significant, and tonality, your tone, is 82% significant. Thank you. I like writing quotations. I just feel like, if I can rhyme it and find a way to rhyme it, and in two short sentences, I can uh, capture a lot of information and communicate that. I find it to be effective, especially in my job as a presenter, as a trainer, as a speaker. Uh, because the left brain will be engaged processing the logic, the meaning of what I said. The right brain will be appreciating the expressions, will be appreciating the rhyme. Yeah. Okay, exactly what I teach in my class. There you go. So we have also trainers around teaching communication skills. Okay, nevertheless, I think words, we do pay attention from time to time, so it gets conscious from time to time. Mostly it's still unconscious. All right. Whereas tone, body language, facial expressions are largely communicated unconsciously. So these are the three Ds to pay attention to. Verbal, which refers to the words, the choice of words, your sentence structure. Vocal will be your tone, your rate of speech, whether you're speaking fast or you're speaking slow. Pitch is how fast you go, or how low you go. That's your pitch, and then of course volume. If you notice, like different people from living in different countries have different volume that is perceived as a norm, right? Like for example, I know that my friends from New York, they have a tendency to speak a bit louder, probably because they're so used to it, because with all the traffic and everything that's ongoing in New York, got to speak louder to be heard, so the volume tends to be a bit higher. I've got friends in China who also speak with volume that's higher than what I perceive to be our normal, because geographically they are so big, and so the perception, when they communicate with each other, we're like, oh, and then they talk, and that becomes normal after a while. Yeah, choice of words is very important, certainly, but I also think that we have to be congruent with your verbal, your vocal, as well as the visual. Visual means your facial expressions and your body language. All right, and now with modern technology, we have visual as well, even if we are communicating with each other from different locations. All right, and that's when I think the facial expressions and all come in to matter a lot. Yeah. All right. So communication. Pay attention on these three things. Your words, your tone, your body language must be aligned with each other. Right. Uh, Someone come to you and go like, oh, you know what? You're the best team member to work with. You're the best person to have in my team, and then they are shaking their head. Then that's not congruent. They're saying something positive, but the body language is not. All right. And anytime when the words, the meaning contradicts the expression, then I would take the expression to be true. Or at least in this instance, I think visual is more significant. All right, but they're all important, and so it's important we pay attention to what we communicate, and best if we can prepare. Now, obviously, we cannot be preparing every single word and then memorizing every paragraph. Most of the time, it's just point forms. All right, so do take time to also reflect on your communication, and plan how to do it better the next time. Right? If we do not invest time to prepare, we may have to waste time to repair, and I think repairing is a lot more challenging. All right, but there's still the two aspects in our brain, both the conscious and the unconscious mind. All right, and we tend to communication is still largely unconscious. Like for instance, if you look at this slide that I just put on, if you were to read, word by word from the left to right, and that these words are all individually colored. Okay, so say the color and not the words. Just try it out and see what happens. Say the color, not the words. Ready, go. Was it difficult? So you consciously want to save the color because that's what I asked you to. But does does the unconscious mind kind of like want to kick in and want to take over? All right, Joseph Joseph put up a question which I need to clarify with you. How about choice of words towards different character? Okay, I don't understand what you mean by choice of words towards different character. Do you mean to say that if we are dealing with different people, we use different words, or I mean, how is that different? I would more think in terms of the style of communication may be different. Perhaps as a parent, you tend to command, you tend to tell, you tend to instruct, versus asking, all right, versus consulting, versus collaborating in the communication. So you just need to understand that the more authoritative you are, like when you're telling, you're instructing, then um, obviously, then that's what parents tend to do with kids. Yeah, you may realize that the message don't really get across that effectively. So varying the styles is important depending on the context, depending on the situation, depending on who we are communicating with. That would be my take on it. Right? Okay, Dean also sometimes I use emojis to express how I would sound like on text because sometimes people misconstrue a text message with emoticons and emojis. They would know that the sentence or comment is meant with jest. Okay, so let me put that up again. Yep, I think the use of emojis and all that certainly help because when it comes to text messages, it's purely like the words, right? Like the tone is how I interpret the tone to be. And so something can be interpreted as sarcastic or it can be interpreted as a compliment. All right, so I think adding on the emoticons and emojis, that helps. Yeah. So for that, I definitely appreciate all of you. See, that's a blast of my emojis. Okay, let's see. Uh, Rodolph, hi. Oh, hi from Mr. DeAngelis from Argentina. My friend, how have you been? Gosh, it's been how many years? We met at the NLP University at the University of California in Santa Cruz. When we did our master trainer certification. Hey, long time, my friend. I remember you share an experience that when we were connecting and talking to each other, and I discovered that you're from Argentina, and you discovered I'm from Singapore, and you actually told me this. I think it was after that incident when we were still communicating. You told me that you were helping out in your wife's shoe shop one day, and there were like 4 or 5 ladies that came in to try on shoes and to buy shoes, and you were helping out. So you were serving them and you were talking to them, and then and they told you they're from Singapore, and then you ask them, oh, then do you know my friend Dr. Billy Craig? And they say, oh, that's my trainer, and I remember you came to me and said I am popular worldwide. No, 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 it's not really the case. So happened that the people happen to have attended my training or classes before, and that to me is definitely an honor. Mr. DeAngelis, uh, so delighted to have you here this evening. Okay, Lynn, also, I think style of language is depending on who you are communicating with too. Yeah, definitely. I think the style will vary. Do we tell? Do we ask? Do we consult? Or do we join? Yeah. All right. So it varies. It varies. Okay. Let me see. Caroline. She's a trainer and she's got a message. Sure. I feel the mindset of the person receiving the message is also very important. Some people are already negative against you, for example. So no matter what nice words you use, it is futile, especially if it's only via words. Okay, so here's the thing, the 3 A's, right? People will accumulate the information. Now, if your words are positive, your tone is positive, your body language is also positive in that sense, you would have communicated because you're careful about it, you drafted it, you prepare it, you would have communicated clearly, concisely, and congruently. All right, I like to believe that even for people with a negative mindset against you, if you consistently send out information that's congruently positive, eventually you will the processing of your message will change. And so instead of reacting to you, they will be responding to you. This is that reminds me of an NLP presuppositions. In NLP, we say that resistance is always a sign of a lack of rapport. Resistance is a sign of a lack of rapport. So I think, like I mentioned earlier on, let's connect with people as people. You know, psychological needs, emotional needs, physiological needs, and not just using words per se. Yeah, me still, you rock. Great trainer. Oh, okay, old man trainer already. Yeah, that was amazing, was it? Huh? You remember that? I remember that too. Okay, Joseph said, agreed. Oh, okay, agreed. No matter what we do, they will never be impressed. Joseph, if we seek to impress, we will only be depressed. I think on our part, for me, it's about doing the best, doing things to the best of my ability. So I'm going to plan carefully with all my knowledge on words and the usage of words and my sentence structure, and prepare perhaps by rehearsing how I will communicate that, and make sure that my body language is also congruent. Because whatever happened inside reflect on the outside. If you really don't think so, then don't say it, because you're gonna say something positive, and then while you're saying, really, like you're a good person to have in my team. Not congruent. So when the person accumulate the information, it's just confusing, right? Okay, so Caroline, not just to impress, but sometimes it is difficult to change the situation. Okay, got to discuss more about it. I think it's context dependent. Yeah, but if you see on a daily basis, we are either influencing or we are being influenced. So in this instant, for example, are we being influenced by the person's negative perception of you already? And therefore it also affects how we project ourselves, right? Maybe give that some thought, and let's see how. Yeah. Okay, cannot control their bias, so have to control ourselves in the way we communicate, craft it in such a way that they may understand. Yeah. That's why it's called mindset. Yeah, being correctly pointed out, the mind is already set on that. All right, but beliefs are developed, they are learned. So beliefs can be changed, perceptions can be changed. Ever sit around with your friends, sharing some food, and then you already eaten a piece of the dessert, only for your friend to pick that piece of the dessert, put in the mouth and go, I think this one is bad, it's gone bad. You just ate this and it's bad, it's sour, it's not supposed to be sour. You taste it and suddenly yeah, it's sour. Yeah, come to think of it, yeah, man, it's bad. We actually got influenced by their communication, right? So beliefs can be changed. Yes, Mindy, I like this one too. If we seek to impress, we will just be depressed. Yeah. Face to face communication is definitely, I would say easier per se, but it's definitely better because we get to use all the three V's. All right. However, when it is only via email, for example, it's difficult, takes a while to change the mindset, though not impossible. Nothing is impossible. Things are only impossible because we don't know how. All right, some people have random, intuitive, relational, linear processing, hence the choice of words towards them. Wow. Okay, Joseph talking about dealing with personalities and personality profiling. All right, so it's about profiling people with the different types, and therefore we communicate with them in the way that they prefer. I think we exercise flexibility, we communicate in the way the other person prefer to receive. All right, so it's about, like, for example, changing of a negative belief or perception of you. I think it is also about you being able to influence and change their thinking. All right, everyone can be influenced, and here it is about influencing them the way they like to be influenced. In NLP, we call that, first of all, eliciting, discovering their strategies, how they are convinced, how they develop belief. Because if I know how someone develop a belief, then I can actually do things that change that belief, right? I know for certain that, so yes, Joseph, you have a point there. If you are into personality profiling, you're familiar with that. Um, we can do that. However, I think that, when it comes to personality profiling, no matter what profile you are who you are in that profile, but you are also much, much more. And you are also much, much more. All right. So I tend not to just stick to profile per se. All right. Although it will give me an indication as to how they like to communicate, how they like to be influenced. Right. And then I will work according to people's preferences. So that on my part requires flexibility. All right. So remember this one, yeah. Conscious, unconscious, we do. Unconscious mind will take over. All right. So better to plan carefully. And so these are like some phrases that I picked up. I hear people using casually. I think that without planning carefully. So when you say like correct me if I'm wrong, and then you say whatever you wanted to say, straight away you're being perceived as, your message itself, does it gear the person up to receive your message positively, or have you already set the person up to perceive you wrongly? When you say correct me if I'm wrong, you're basically telling them, pay attention to what I say wrong so you can correct me. All right, so this kind of casual phrases and all, let's remove them and replace them with simply I believe. See, your belief can be wrong, but it's your belief, right? Everybody's entitled to their belief, right? Another one, the casual phrase, I'm sorry to bother you, but, okay, that straight away is suggesting, is telling people you are bothering them. Even if it's not a bother, but because you say, I'm sorry to bother you, it will make the person feel like, yeah, why you keep bothering me? All right, instead, tell them, I need to speak to you about something. Yeah, and then maybe it is a good idea too. If you're trying to convince and influence, and you go like maybe it is a good idea too, you are also telling people that you're not sure. And if you're not sure, why should I be taking you seriously, right? So replace it with phrases like I recommend that we, and then you share your idea. All right, and then this final one, I hear that a lot. Don't get me wrong, don't get me wrong. Okay, straight away, the human brain does not process the negative, right? If I say don't, think of an elephant. What happened in your mind now? An elephant already popped up. The human brain just does not process the negative. All right, so important thing here when communicating with others, keep our words all positive so there is no space, there is no opportunity for them to interpret it wrongly. All right, so carefully craft, plan it. So plan, so prepare so there's no repair. Yeah. Okay, law of requisite variety. There you go, Mindy. That's the flexibility I'm talking about. Law of requisite variety is an NLP presupposition that says in any situation, it is a person with the most mental and behavioral flexibility that's the one that's going to get the desired results. So, are you mentally flexible enough to deal with different people differently? Are you flexible enough to change your own belief and your own thinking in the first place? Because I believe there is no difficult people, only people who are different. Because we simply perceive the same things differently, and therefore it's an opportunity for us to understand each other. All right, okay, wow, nice. Okay, like Gary Chapman in his book The Five Love Languages. Wow, this one I got to check. Communicate to your loved one with their love language. One, words of affirmation. All right, add that to the 3 A's: quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, physical touch. Find their love language to effectively communicate in a relationship. Yep, definitely sought Lynn out. She's a coach and she specializes in helping couples with conflicts, people with conflicts. She does a great job in mediating and sharing. She also writes a lot, and do connect with her, right? If you will. Okay, I love the book. However, you need time to know their love language too. There you go. All right, so I think we all have our own preference. So the idea here is to find out what is the other person's preference. And whenever I'm not sure, I'm just going to keep all my communication positive. Okay, so words, keep it positive. Obviously, tone we have to pay attention to. Right. So first of all, your voice, your volume, that it ought to be appropriate. Quite instinctively, when I want to emphasize something, and if I don't give it any thought, if I don't receive a training like this, or if I don't learn about things like this, natural tendency when I want to emphasize something, I will raise my volume. No, this is the way, right? But then it's not. It is being perceived as, why are you yelling? All right. One thing I know for sure, men dealing with your women, uh, no matter what topics you're discussing, arguing about, okay, the moment you raise your voice, you just lost that argument. You know why? There's a new argument topic now. The new argument topic is, how dare you raise your voice at me? All right, and then it become a different thing altogether. All right, so voice and volume. All right, do pay attention to that. Vocal variety and your rate of speech. Having vocal variety engages the conscious mind, right? If you're monotonous, then it gets boring. I don't know how many of you have attended a class, a training workshop or something like that, and that 20 minutes into the training, no matter what the trainer say, whether he makes sense or don't make sense, you just instinctively agree with him anyway. You know how you agree? That's how you're agreeing, huh? With your body language. Why? Because lack of vocal variety. All right, rate of speech also matters. Example, if you speak faster to convey excitement, I have another slide on this. When you speak faster, you speak slower to convey that you're thoughtful about it. All right. Also be comfortable with pauses. Sometimes pauses allow ideas to sink in. Very important is we pay attention to the other person. So if you have the opportunity for a visual face to face, then you can actually watch out of on when you should have a pause to let them process the information. All right. For normally organized people, if you say something to me and you're talking to me at this moment, and if you notice my eyes go down to my left hand side, if I'm a normally organized person, that means right-handed, right master eye. If my eyes go down to this direction, in NLP we learn that this is called auditory digital. This is self-talk, meaning I'm analyzing what you just said. So at this moment, should you stop to let me have a moment to process what you just said, or should you continue to talk? Right? Because if you continue to talk and talk and talk, then hey, not it will not be received because I'm already distracted, thinking about this. Yeah, vocal emphasis, emphasizing on a different word, can give the sentence a different meaning. I was born in Singapore. Emphasis is me, not other people. I was born in Singapore, meaning I'm born here, bred here. I did not come here and become a citizen or whatever. All right, so the different emphasis, even though the words are the same, you emphasize on a different word with your vocal, it can sometimes change the meaning entirely. And finally, inflection. Inflection refers to the tone of the last word in your sentence. Does it go down or does it go up? Example, trust me, this is really good, or trust me, this is really good. And so pay attention to this because a lot of times the vocal is very unconscious, all right? And so it can actually compromise and contradict our message. Yeah. Leonard, I don't know what you mean by 5 minutes record time. Okay, anyway, so voice and perception, a lower pitch is perceived as being more authoritative and more serious. A slower rate conveys well thought out. So when someone asks you a question, even though it may be the 100th time you're answering this question, and so you know the answer right there and then, perhaps pausing to show that you're giving it some thought first before you communicate will be more effective, and it's easier for them to receive your message. A faster rate obviously conveys energy, excitement, and enthusiasm, and punctuation must be heard in our vocal. Right? For example, if you read out this sentence, depending on which way, how you punctuate your sentence, the meaning of these words can change entirely. Yeah. Okay, love you means more than just like you. Love you means I love only you and nobody else. Okay, I don't know where did that come from. Put me to sleep. Okay, oh, all right. Okay, so that's what you mean, Leonard. the training where you agree with the trainer. 5 minutes, yeah, that's the record time. Already put you to sleep. There you go. Ha ha ha. Hey, okay. All right, there you go. Okay, this sentence, if you punctuate differently, can mean different thing. Woman without her man is nothing. Woman without her man is nothing. Woman without her man is nothing. See, the words remain the same, but when the vocal change, the meaning of the entire sentence change. Yeah. All right. Mindy has a question. Billy, have you come across people who say, "I'm not rude, I'm just loud"? Oh, then I think we need to calibrate first. I mean, if the person's volume is just naturally loud, and even if he's expressing something, uh, um, something cordially, something pleasant, and they were going loud, then perhaps just it's just their volume. All right, their normal volume and your normal volume is different. All right, so if I were you, then I would pay attention. I would observe her. I would observe him or her, in order to find out, whether they are indeed just being rude and giving an excuse, or they are just loud, or they talk louder. I do know that if we start to lose our hearing, there's a natural tendency to raise our volume because we listen to ourselves when we are speaking as well. Yeah, there you go, Caroline. Woman without her man is nothing. Or woman without her man is nothing. Or woman without her man is nothing. All right. So your vocal can create a different meaning altogether. All right, and I think your vocal projects your attitude. Yeah. Body language. I use this acronym in my class, softening, right, to remind that as far as body language is concerned, softened body language is usually uh, received better. Yeah. Okay. So as is for a smile, I think the shortest distance between two people is a smile. Right. So get yourself into a state, be ready to communicate and always present your best with people, or at least that's how I perceive and that's how I think. I treat it as an honor and a privilege to have an opportunity to interact and connect and communicate with someone, and of course I smile. Right, open posture, because most people read body language kind of like literally. So if I were to do this would mean that I'm close, I am defensive, when actually I could just be comfortable, or I could be feeling cold. Right, so don't read body language literally. The point is that people do that, or at least a lot of people do that. So in order to minimize the misunderstanding, maintain open posture, right? Slightly leaning forward when people are talking, is telling people you're listening, and that encourage people to talk more. I think in our society, or at least prior to this COVID-19, the most common form of touch when people meet one another is via a handshake, right? And we know that then your handshake has to be firm, all right? For me, I like to offer a handshake with my palm facing up, because that tells people that, hey, I'm open, um, and that they get to place their hand on top of me. Physiologically, they feel that they're in control, and they feel that they're comfortable. Just that my body language, I'm not threatening. Although there's something about my eyes. Speaking of which, next one is eye contact. Because I do hypnotherapy, computer telling me, Billy, when I talk to you, I look at I make eye contact with you. It always seems as if like your eyes can see through me, and read my mind. And no, I don't read mind. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a mentalist. I just learn skills in NLP to communicate more effectively, because I want to hear beyond the words, yeah, to understand people better. Okay. Leon, I'm not dead. I just choose not to respond. Says Harvey. Ha 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 ha. Me teaching. Okay. All right. So forward lean, touch, eye contact, and nod when people are talking. Nodding doesn't mean you agree with them necessarily. It means you're acknowledging. Because I've seen two people interact. This person is saying something, and the person listening to it is already shaking head as they are listening. You make it very difficult. Then just bring out the reaction in the other people. Remember, you accumulate, accentuate, and you activate. The other person is also doing the same thing. right? For me, I will not to acknowledge people. There you go. Okay, yeah. So now cannot shake hands due to COVID. Huh? In America, I know that they did the elbow bump. So that's still a form of touch. Okay, I is be interested, not interesting. Yeah, similar to like you first seek to understand, then to be understood. Be interested in the other person, I think impresses the other person more. Demonstrates more empathy, demonstrates more that you care and you create a genuine connection rather than to try to be interesting. Also, pay attention on small little movements and gestures, responses, and reaction. Notice people's comfort zone. Some people are not comfortable if you get too close. Some people are quite comfortable if you get close. So, depending on the other person. So, in dealing with people, law of requisite variety, not whether I'm comfortable, it's whether they are comfortable or not. And I'm the flexible one who will adapt to you, who will be flexible with you, who will deal with you in the way you prefer to be dealt with. All right. And of course, gesturing and the implications of gestures. Yeah. So for me, is speaking of, I tend to like to use gestures. I'm a visual person. Okay, so these are some of the tips I have for you this evening. All right. So remember, I also mentioned that rapport. All right, resistance is usually due to a sign of a lack of rapport. So when you are like each other, you like each other. So if I can first understand what you are like, I can deal with you the way you like. Yeah, I think that goes true for even for service. I mean, there were those days where we say you treat people, you serve people the way you like to be served. You treat people the way you like to be treated. I say no, you treat people the way they like to be treated. You serve people the way they like to be served versus I, because how I like it may not be how you like it. Yeah, Caroline, you got part of the equation there. Mirroring, NLP, matching and mirroring creates rapport. All right, mirroring, or what Caroline mentioned, is about having the same body language. Actually, that's very unconscious. If you observe two person communicating with each other and they're talking to each other, you can watch them from afar, without listening to the content or what they're talking about exactly. But just observing body language, you can tell whether they have rapport or not. All right, because it's just quite natural that we will mirror unconsciously mirror each other when there's a rapport. And so, if you want to build rapport, then a part of which is to mirror them, another part of which is to match them. All right, matching will be matching the three V's, right? Using the same words because those words mean something to them. And so if you also meant it that way, then use back the same words rather than paraphrasing. I would paraphrase if they are saying something like negative, like if you why do you demand? I would say, oh, you mean why it is necessary to, right? Versus, yeah, there you go. Master of quotes, you're quite the poet, really. No, no, no. It's just something that I like doing because I find that it's quite an effective way of getting messages across in the shortest way possible, in the most elegant way possible. Yeah. Okay, Sharon's, yes, many husband and wife tend to mirror each other. Actually, if you observe closely, right? Um, okay, opposites attract, yeah, but when opposites attract, usually it doesn't last. Either that or one will influence the other. Right. So if you notice, right, couples who are very loving and it's been for like years that they're very loving with each other, they grow to look like each other, they grow to be like each other, they behave in the same way, they have the same preferences, and they just naturally mirror the body language. And after a while it's just unconsciously a part of them, so it's like very natural. Yeah, there you go, Joseph, including looks. Yeah, so they just not just mirroring each other, grow to become like each other. In fact, I know that people who love animals, like some owner look like their dogs, the dog look like owner. 101 Dalmatian. Huh? Okay, and we look like each other too sometimes. Ha ha ha. After a while, there you go. So that's rapport for you. Okay, we passed an hour actually. Didn't think we will be talking that long, but thank you very much for all your sharing and your comment. All right, so just one question. Which is most impactful for you this evening? Among the things that we discussed, which is most impactful for you? That light up something within you, and is a reminder for you that you ought to pay attention on that so that you can communicate and connect with people more effectively. All right, Farah also. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Really enjoy reading your quotes, easy to understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, I was like, because don't do social media all this time. So we have a YouTube channel, and that was even that's only there you go. Thank you. So we have a YouTube channel, and even with the YouTube channel, um, we have like one post every now and then, so you can see a video clip that we posted from like 10 years ago and all, but which we did not like so recently all these live streams, after we are done with the live streams, we will be uploading it on YouTube. And so every once in a while, I will also like search up for my own channel, just to look at the channel. I actually saw, I think it was like some years ago, there was a kid who did a video, and he's got like a deck of postcards, quotations that I've written. When previously we published them in like a big motivational poster. I can't find any with me here now. All right, but later on I string them into postcard, and this kid was like going through it, and he had all these postcards, and he was reading it out, and he even pronounced my name correct, the way I like my name to be pronounced. Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. So, yeah, what is most impactful for you this evening? What is inspiring for you this evening? Yeah, Farah mentioned about the three A's and the three R's. That's for you. Good. Thank you. All right. Alan also. Looks like birds of a feather flock together. So, people like people who are like themselves. Yeah. All right, so I hope you enjoy this evening. Again, thank you all for sharing. Next week, I hope to see you at the same time. Um, and as far as topics are concerned, feel free to write me and suggest any topics or request any topics. If it's within what I do, I'll be happy to do a session on it, right? And if you are trying to catch our previous episodes, please visit our YouTube channel, Billy Quick. Right, all the previous episodes are uploaded there. Now, so moving on from here, have a very good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me this evening. Right, and finally, just a quick reminder: please join us in our social media channels. Subscribe to our Facebook, comment and share. YouTube, we are posting more and more videos. You can see me do from years ago, when I was still young and energetic and everything. Doing demonstrations on hypnosis, NLP anchoring techniques, and sharing different things. And also, please do come join us in our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, share. Very important. Make a comment. Share something with me. Share your thoughts, and then from there, perhaps we develop more topics in the future. All right. So once again, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me this evening. Good night.